What's up, everybody? Welcome in to Group Chat Football Live. I'm Peter Ariz alongside D Money here. And as always, we come at you daily here on Group Chat Football Live. This is our show where we talk transfer portal, recruiting, coaching news, and we have a little bit of everything today. We will start with Bill Belichick and North Carolina, though, D, as they're working on the nation's top quarterback for the 2026 class, Jared Curtis. We've talked about Jared Curtis a few times here recently, and it's interesting because North Carolina was not a program that was necessarily on his radar when we first had an update on him. He had dropped his top 6 schools, and Bill Belichick visits him yesterday. He has now set up a follow-up trip to Chapel Hill to check it out for the first time, and it looks like the Tar Heels are squarely in this race.
This is, to me, from what I've seen from highlights, watch a couple full games on this class, but pretty much watch every blue chip quarterback in this class of 26. This, to me, is the guy as far as the ability, the upside, the premier player that I've seen in the class of 26, 6'4", 225 from Nashville, Tennessee, ranked number 2 quarterback in the nation. But again, make a very good case for number 1, former Georgia commit, former running back. So this guy can run. And when you watch his highlights, it's very, very easy to see somebody that Bill Belichick may remember from the AFC East, and that is Josh Allen. Here, we're watching his sophomore stuff. He's improved significantly since then, but the size, the physicality, the ability to run, and look at the cannon. I mean, effortlessly just pushing the ball down the field. North Carolina has been very, very lucky with quarterbacks. Not lucky. I mean, they've recruited them and developed them, but they've been very blessed with quarterbacks. When you talk about Sam Howell, starting as a true freshman and being pretty productive his entire career, moving on to the NFL. Then Drake May, one of the better quarterback talents that I've ever seen in the ACC, someone I think is going to be a really good pro. There's a tradition to sell. Of course, Belichick has his own tradition to sell with the greatest of all time. When you watch this guy, this is a program changer, probably comparable to May of those two, just because of the size and athleticism. But really, to me, I see Josh Allen. Look at that throw. Oh, moly.
And if you're Curtis, right, all these schools coming at you, you can go wherever you want in the country. I would think the pitch starts to sound similar across the board at a lot of these programs when you're his caliber of recruit as a quarterback. Bill Belichick coming in there probably sounds a little bit different than what these other coaches are saying. And obviously the track record that he has is going to go certain ways for a quarterback of his stature. So if you're putting yourself in Curtis's shoes, North Carolina doesn't seem to, I mean, Bryce Baker, of course, in the class now, but we still have to see him, step on the field and see what he does. You might be looking at this as a pretty enticing situation.
Yeah, look, there's really no hometown advantage. He was committed to Georgia. Georgia's still in the mix. Oregon's gotten a lot of buzz as a potential favorite. He's previously identified Alabama with Kalen DeBoer, South Carolina, Coach Shula there, Coach Beamer. They have Lenore Sellers, who's developing into an NFL prospect, Auburn, Ohio State. But to me, just from a distance standpoint, it's not like any of those schools are hometown schools. Really, from Nashville to Chapel Hill is a straight shot east, about 7 hours. So it's not particularly far, if that matters to him at all. And then, of course, the ability to be the face of the franchise, what this program is built on. Bill Belichick's added a lot of offensive linemen in the transfer portal. You're talking about big dudes, some that will be graduated before Curtis would get there, some that have multiple years of eligibility. But clearly there's a focus on building an offensive line. You signed Brandon Baker last year, a 4-star quarterback, one of the better quarterbacks in the country. He's going to get every chance to be the quarterback of the future. I think we probably should mention that. You also have Zaid Lott.
Bryce Baker.
Bryce
yeah.
Baker. I'm sorry.
I said Bryce. I mentioned him before.
Yeah, I apologize. And then Zaid Lott from Providence Day School, who's already committed there from Charlotte. Both of those guys, North Carolina guys. With Baker, basketball player, very smart guy, productive. He's going to be here with a chance to compete early. So maybe he's cemented the quarterback of the future by the time Curtis even graduates. But that's something to keep an eye on. How hard do they go after Curtis? Because this is the type of player that, you don't just recruit, you kind of build around and try to make it the face of your franchise.
So quarterback is going to be a big focus here in Chapel Hill, seeing who, if Bryce Baker ends up kind of taking control of that situation as the season goes on. Of course, they bring in the Purdue transfer as well, as more of a veteran presence. Maybe he's the guy who goes out there and gets it done. But still, if you're Bill Belichick and GM Mike Lombardi, you wanted to finish this current recruiting class in terms of the 2025 class off strong. And they had a really, really good weekend here, as they've picked up 5 commits since the weekend, and now at 19 signees and commits for this recruiting class. So we'll kind of go down the list here, as again, 5 new commits for the Tar Heels from the high school ranks. We've talked a lot of transfer portal. We've talked now some 2026 recently, picking up a pair of defensive backs out of California for next class, Jared Curtis here. But we're talking about guys who will be on this team for next year that just committed to the Tar Heels.
Yeah, look, it was a monster weekend for UNC, both with 25 players, which you mentioned, the 2025 kids that are going to be part of the 2025 Tar Heels, part of Bill Belichick's first team, but then also some big-time 26 kids that are at a higher echelon of recruit coming out, top 10 at their position, multiple guys with that pedigree on campus. So just a huge, huge weekend for UNC. But starting with the signees, we've seen, Pete, when you have these coaching transitions late, I don't want to say scrambling, but you're just trying to be resourceful and say, who is somebody who maybe the coach of their team left and they're back on the market. Maybe they were underrated. They're a fast riser and they just didn't get the FBS attention they deserve for whatever reason. Who are the guys that we can add late that for whatever reason are available? There's different reasons they are available that we can get productive players out of really right before the shot clock ends. And we've seen it at these schools. Sometimes those guys that you get in these transition classes, you're not going to have the hit rate, right? Because it's so ad hoc, but you'll often find guys, including guys that maybe the prior stat didn't offer, that end up helping your program and helping your rebuild.
And we'll start here with an example of that at the linebacker spot in Tyler Hauser, who was previously, I should say, headed to Wake Forest. And of course, Dave Clawson stepped down.
Yeah, so we saw 2 guys that fit this profile as far as Wake Forest decommits. We'll get to another one in a second. But, starting with Hauser, we're seeing a picture of what Bill Belichick wants in a linebacker, and we'll go over the other guys in this signing class that he added here late. But they all fit a similar profile linebacker of being big, strong, and physical. Athletic, but not, converted safeties necessarily. These are guys that are big and can get downhill and thump. This is a 6'2", 220-pounder, number 88 linebacker in America, according to the rankings. He's from Sparta, New Jersey. That's that NYC area. Went to Pope John, the 23rd high school, led the team in tackles, 144, had 7 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, took a pick to the house, blocked a punt, and really a better athlete than maybe is obvious watching the film. He moves well, but then you look at the athletic background. He played basketball. He threw the discus, javelin, shot put, long jump, high jump, 100-meter, 110 hurdle, 400-meter. I mean, this guy's basically a decathlete doing everything. You're seeing blocking the punt. So the athleticism's underrated. The size is there, but the power and the strength and the size at linebacker stand out to me. He said he committed to UNC because the prestige of UNC as an institution combined with Coach Belichick is beyond special. That's what he told On3. Clearly, the Belichick impact is being felt. And I like that they're recruiting to a type. Sometimes when you have these scrambles, right, to put together a class, you just take the first thing available and there's no rhyme or reason to what you're doing. Here, they've clearly said, we want bigger linebackers. We want physical guys. We want guys with strength and stopping power. And they've added one of those here with Hauser.
Flipping over to the other side of the ball, taking a look at a guy who is playing the running back spot here is JoJo Troop, who looks like a nice addition to their roster for next year.
Yeah, this is someone I'm very familiar with here in Florida. He really jumped on my radar as a junior for Berkeley Prep, which is a small school up there in Tampa. They won the state championship last year in 23. Dallas Golden, who I believe is going to Notre Dame, was a big-time player on that team as well. But Troop had a huge playoff. Also a baseball player. He's got an 8 rating on perfect game, outfielder and first baseman. So he has that multi-sport background. But as a running back, highly productive, bowling ball. Kind of reminds me of Davion Gauss, who you have now at North Carolina, another Florida guy, but more of a bowling ball, a little shorter. You see the balance. You see some lateral quicks. Again, he's a multi-sport guy, so he's more athletic than maybe he appears body-wise. Was committed to Temple, ends up flipping to North Carolina, and he just looks like somebody he's not going to win track meets necessarily, but he can break long runs because he has great vision, he has great balance, he has great strength, and he's a true running back.
Yeah, bowling ball is a nice way to describe him. You see a stout build, but I mean, he's got a bit of burst, and he's decisive, man. Once he sees it, he's not trying to dance around and make guys miss in the open field necessarily.
Yeah, he doesn't mind contact. Like I said, he's been productive. He's been a winner. I'm surprised that he had to go to the G5 level before UNC came and identified him. I think he is an ACC type back. And I think back to Gauss again, state champion, strong, good contact balance, long track record of production. So if you like what you got with Gauss, this guy's going to fit right into that committee and give you a similar type of player.
Keeping it moving here. Next up, defensive lineman Nico Maio. And this guy's not going to wow you necessarily with his measurables, but just looks like a good football player, hard-nosed, and seems like a Belichick sort of guy.
Yeah, you see him lining up nose to nose with that center. You saw Vince Wilfork do this for so many years for the Patriots. Now, Nico Maio doesn't have the Vince Wilfork size, but certainly not afraid to mix it up. 6'1", 270. He looks a little bigger than that on film. From Buford, Georgia, one of the best programs in the entire country, playing against great teams. You watch his highlights, you see him against Milton, some other top-ranked teams in Georgia. 40 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 6 quarterback hurries this past season. Intercepted a pass, 3 deflections, pair of fumbles. Like Hauser, he was a Wake Forest signee, signed in the early signing period, but because Clausen left, that freed him up to sign with other schools despite having signed with Wake Forest. That's one of the NCAA rules when your coach leaves. So he had the freedom to take a step back, reevaluate his recruitment. Belichick comes in and is able to sign this guy. And again, it's just kind of a role. You're not seeing the dancing bear stuff, the 3 technique, just beating the guard with quickness. He's going nose to nose on the center. He's going to push him back as hard as he can. He's going to use his lower body strength, his flexibility in his hands to generate knockback and to plug it up there in the middle. I think it's a system fit and somebody who, again, fits in with this physical kind of run-stopping mindset of these front 7 players you're seeing sign with UNC.
Yeah, without a doubt. It looks like a nice pickup for them. And again, it's all about getting bodies on that defensive line. They lost so much there that you're seeing them take a lot of guys here, and a lot of them have been bigger body types than what you're seeing here. But look, if you can hit on a guy like this with some interior movement ability and quicks, then that can be a big plus.
No question about it. Excited about that fit. And really, I like just the overall direction of getting guys that fit. Don't just get every piece, highly rated guy that hasn't signed yet. Sometimes those guys haven't signed for a reason, right? With Hauser and with this player, with Maggio, the reason they didn't sign is because their coach left. So there's nothing weird about it, and there's nothing wrong with them. It was just a circumstance outside their control, and you at UNC become the beneficiary.
So the next one up here is a player that is down here in South Florida where we are. Not a highly rated player whatsoever. He's an unranked guy, but coming from one of the top programs in the entire country in St. Thomas Aquinas, and that's linebacker Lance Pascal.
Yeah, and you see this with St. Thomas Aquinas. They have so many guys. They don't play the same. A lot of times you have Division I Power 4 players who don't play that many snaps because they rotate with other Power 5, Power 4 now players. So Pascal's kind of in that mold. He played a ton as a junior at a smaller school, Nova, which is in Davie by where the Dolphins practice. He had a big year there. Transfers now as a senior to Aquinas, which is, in terms of producing NFL players, probably the top program in America, I would say hands down, I think by the numbers. And just like with Hauser, big physical linebacker, 6'1", 225. You see his strength. Played 12 games this season, 35 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 8 hurries, 2 forced fumbles, and plays both edge. You see him here playing edge, but then also off-ball linebacker. So interesting to see where he ends up playing for Steve Belichick and Bill Belichick in that defense, whether he's an outside backer like a Teddy Bruschi type, or like a Willie McGinnis type, or if he's playing inside. I think he'd probably do both. There you see him getting to the quarterback, but really it's the physicality and strength. You see when he tackles, the guys go backwards. They do not fall forwards. He can wrestle him down. He not what I'd say is a spectacular athlete, but athletic enough, and the physical strength and build is college ready and very, very similar to Hauser, who we just talked about, and then Jack Bauer, who we're going to talk about in a second. This is what Bill Belichick clearly wants out of his linebackers.
So you mentioned Jake Bauer, not Jack Bauer. It's
how many names have I screwed up already?
Listen, we talk about a lot of different programs across the country. It's okay to mess it up every now and then, but this is a guy who plays both sides of the football here. And look, you're taking a lot of highly productive players at the position. You would think that a couple of these guys are bound to hit.
Yeah, and this to me, of all these linebackers, this one is my favorite. And one of the reasons why you see it right here, playing running back, fullback actually, but carrying the ball. Look at that stiff arm and then some speed there to finish the run. When you have the ability to play running back and run the ball as well as linebacker, we talked to a linebacker coach from the G5 level, Pete, a friend of ours, who told us he loves running backs that also play linebacker, because if you're recruiting a linebacker, they play running back. It's the same vision of holes developing, just in reverse, right? You're seeing the holes from the linebacker perspective as opposed to the running back trying to run through them. So you're able to kind of see things before they happen, which you see right here. Look at that. Look at the ability to sift through traffic and diagnose. So you had that. You had the athleticism. You had the balance, all the things it takes to the lateral quickness, all the things it takes to run the ball effectively. And then he translates that to linebacker. You see the athleticism here, another interception. He was committed to Navy. Not sure that Naval Academy has, they're probably pretty upset to lose someone like this in our armed forces. But man, for a football standpoint, getting the call up to the Power 4 level, Navy was a really good team this year. So it's not like they don't know what they're looking for when it comes to football players. But this is someone that gets the call up to the Power 4 level. And I think, again, of all these guys, they all have their strengths. This is the one that gets me the most excited. I can see this guy being a big-time hit, just seeing how he moves at his size.
Yeah, without a doubt. And again, these guys that we just spoke about are 2025 prospects. So they'll be on the team for this next recruiting, for this next season here. But Belichick and his staff were also getting ahead on 2026. Some notable names that were also, visiting Chapel Hill. And again, these are guys who are truly elite for this next class. Johnny Jones from Berkeley Prep in Tampa, which a program that you just referenced, the running back coming out of there. So that's one guy who was big time. Samoti Katoanga, the number 19 defensive lineman in the country out of Southern California. Steve Belichick had a relationship with him from Washington last year. Devon Benjamin, the number 3 safety in the country from Los Angeles. He's someone who Armand Hawkins, I would imagine, has been working on building that relationship with big time. Deuce Gerald's number 5 defensive lineman from the state of Georgia. So, I mean, we continue to go down the list here, and it's elite prospects that we're visiting over the weekend.
Again, look, if you're North Carolina, these are top 10 at their position prospects from all across the country, Los Angeles area, Southern California area, where you've had a lot of success, particularly at defensive back, since signing Coach Mondo out of Washington. But it really starts North Carolina. We talked about Bryce Baker earlier being one of the top prospects in the country out of the state, stays home to play quarterback. How about protecting him with Akini Ogboko? This is the number 4 interior offensive lineman, according to 247 on 3, has him as an offensive tackle from South Garner High School in Durham, North Carolina. Said his time in Chapel Hill was good. What excites him is the future of the program and the NFL regimen and experience they have. So Bill Belichick said he'd sell NFL. That's what he's selling to these young players, along with the fact that they can stay pretty close to home. Of course, you have Xavier Griffin Haynes, who's rumored to be leaning towards UNC number 11 edge in the country from Rolesville, North Carolina. Said it was great. It was a great meeting with Bill, getting the feel of the new environment. What excites me the most is getting to know one of the greatest head coaches and see him build up a program. So if you can hold the best players in North Carolina, get some of these guys from the West Coast, and maybe, cross the Great Smoky Mountains over to Nashville and get Jared Curtis and bring him back home to Chapel Hill, that'd be pretty impressive.
Yeah, and listen, we'll keep you guys covered here on Group Chat Football Live, you North Carolina and Bill Belichick fans. I know we got a lot of fans of Bill Belichick who have been following the show. We appreciate all the support from you guys. Remember to hit that like button on this video and subscribe to the channel as well, because we're going to keep it coming, man. This is it's fascinating stuff. Coach Belichick's doing things his way, but at the same time, we're seeing some of these ties with Coach Hawkins, with his son Steve Belichick, some of those recruiting ties that were put into play last year and the previous years are paying dividends, so to speak, now. So we'll keep you guys updated on everything going on in Chapel Hill and North Carolina football there. Staying in the ACC, another transfer, a swap, I would say here, between Notre Dame and UVA, as former Notre Dame wide receiver Jaden Thomas is transferring to Charlottesville. And this is a guy who played a lot of football at Notre Dame, 43 games played in his career. As a sophomore, started 7 of 13 games for Notre Dame, has 7 career touchdowns for the Fighting Irish. And there was a bit of a swap here because earlier in the cycle, of course, Malachi Fields, a big body receiver, transferred from Virginia to Notre Dame. But if you're Virginia, you have to feel pretty good about this one here. And a guy who, look, by the numbers is not going to blow you away, but was a trusted player for this Notre Dame team, played in all 16 games during this run. And let me tell you, he scored in the game against Indiana. So you can't say this guy didn't contribute along the way. Yeah,
it's an interesting trade, and not officially a trade, but you got Malachi Fields going from Virginia to Notre Dame. Then Jaden Thomas goes to UVA. And look, let's be honest about what's going on here. Notre Dame just played in the national championship game. They're going to be able to acquire talent at a higher level than what you see in the ACC. So that is why they probably got the more dynamic end of that trade with Malachi Fields' ability to win catches downfield. But Jaden Thomas is somebody who he was just playing in the championship game, right? Playing a meaningful role in that playoff run. He can certainly play in the ACC and make an impact. A guy who's look at the stats, 64 catches, over 800 yards in his career. So he's caught the ball in big games, but he's a very willing blocker, a team player, somebody who's unselfish, and somebody who has that size at 6'2", 220 almost. He's really more like he's almost a tight end, and you see him blocking for Jeremiah Love. You see him blocking on these screens on top of catching the ball. So he's not just, hey, let's throw him the football, though, of course. One of the reasons he transferred to Virginia was to get that opportunity to catch the ball. But this guy can help your team in a lot of ways. He brings a lot of maturity to the room, a lot of experience, and I think he's going to elevate a Virginia team that quietly has done some pretty interesting things in the transfer portal. They got another guy who played in that championship game, getting Ohio State linebacker Mitchell Melton. They got Chandler Morris from North Texas at quarterback. We did a video on him back when he went to Virginia. Highly productive player coming out of a lot of schools, but most recently North Texas, where he really blew up. They got Monroe Mills, offensive tackle from Louisville, 91 grade transfer, according to 247, someone we saw up close who is very impressive. He's definitely going to be an upper tier, already is an upper tier ACC offensive tackle. Cam Ross from James Madison, productive guy making the move up. So a lot to like about the Virginia class. And with Jaden Thomas, it's the experience, the size, and I think those stats, right now Malachi Fields' stats compared to Thomas's stats are much higher. I do think you'll see Thomas produce more now that he has more of a central role on a ball club, catching passes from one of the most prolific quarterbacks in the country last year, Chandler Morris.
Yeah, and you saw the tweet there from Tyler Horka, who is Notre Dame football for On3, saying it's a win-win for both of these guys. It's a win for the Fighting Irish to get Fields, and a win for Jaden Thomas to go somewhere where he's more needed, which is exactly what you were just saying.
Yeah, this is the portal at its best, right? The portal has a lot of negatives to it, but I think where it's at its best is a guy like Thomas. He contributed to a great Notre Dame team, a great season, did his part, played, was unselfish, was a good teammate. And now he says, I've graduated. Appreciate you guys. You guys are obviously moving on. You got Fields coming in. You got Greathouse coming back. You got Faison coming back. I mean, you got plenty of guys that you can go to the go-to with, can get the football to. So I will move on with my head held high to a team that is still going to compete at a high level in the ACC, and that can get me the football and allow me to show more of what I can do than I did in my 43 games at Notre Dame.
So this next topic here, I'm excited to talk about this one. Hirok Kanu, a defensive lineman who left Ohio State, was a big recruit a couple years ago, and he's attracting major interest. His body type, I mean, you can kind of see it there in the picture, but this is a guy who is originally from Germany, did not pick up football until about 2019. He outgrew soccer. He outgrew the pitch, so he had to transition to football. There was another kid in his neighborhood who played football, and he got him to introduce him to the coach, and he eventually moved over to the States. But since announcing he'd be entering the portal, he's now visited Florida, Texas, and is in Athens today, reportedly. So normally when these transfers, when guys enter the portal, it goes one way or another. You see them get a ton of interest and they're going to have multiple landing spots, or, it's not really, the interest isn't where they necessarily thought it would be, right? They're not playing and they're thinking, man, I'm going to go somewhere for a better opportunity. It's obvious with Hirok Kanu, with the programs on him, that he is a wanted man and someone who was, sparingly playing at Ohio State. But as Kane's Cat C305 says here, you got to look at that body type.
Yeah, and look, Ohio State's got first, second rounders all over that defensive line. So I'm not saying he's a third rounder, right? But I'm just saying if you were a third rounder and you're playing behind second and first rounders, doesn't mean you're not a good player. So he really had a tough situation in terms of what was ahead of him. But the body type, 6'5", 305. He's an experienced player coming from Geltendorf, Germany, which is south of Germany, Bavaria, going to Orange County, California, top 20 defensive lineman in the class of 22. So he does have experience entering his fourth year here, but he comes from a soccer background. So even though he's a fourth-year player, his fourth year doesn't look the same as maybe an American player's fourth year. He's still developing. He's played in real games, played in the Big Ten title game, played against Indiana, played in 2 playoff games, didn't play in the final. But there's a reason why when you enter the portal, you look at the visit list. Texas, Florida. He's at Georgia right now, making a decision here either tomorrow on Wednesday or Thursday. You can never have enough defensive linemen with traits, with body type, with athleticism, as long as they have a good attitude. And this is someone that clearly he just wants a chance, and he's been coached at a high level. Ohio State has some of the best defensive line development in the country. He's been getting that defensive line development, and he's got a chance, man. Got pretty interesting lore from Sergeant Morhew. These guys all have different backgrounds, right? So
Nigerian father, German mother. Again, didn't play much, played soccer, so played football, but not American football, and just got too big. He said he was actually a goalkeeper as well. So, it might have worked. There's some big goalkeepers out there, but I would say football physically. So I was reading a story, and he said he played center back as well, which, if you're not familiar with soccer, that's one of the defensive players in the middle of the field there. So those guys are normally more physical, and he said he would get called for fouls, and he said, "Look, I'm not doing anything." He said he would just kind of touch the other players, and they would fall. So that's when he knew that he needed to find a sport that allowed more physicality.
Well, he's found it, certainly. And look, I think people are wondering why guys that had so little production from a stat standpoint, get these opportunities. There just aren't that many people with this body type and athleticism walking the earth. That's why you go all the way to Bavaria to get these guys. They just don't come around that often. And someone like this is going to continue to get opportunities. UF, Texas, Georgia. If I were him, I'd probably prioritize getting on the field, right? Because Georgia's going to have a lot of guys like him. He could be caught in a similar situation where he is now Texas, the same thing. UF is one that probably makes a lot of sense, playing next to Caleb Banks. They lost a lot in their front seven, didn't necessarily replace it in the first portal window. So that's a fit you could see making sense.
Yeah, without a doubt. But that's an interesting one, man. And he's got to decide here. I saw that Texas, their enrollment closes Wednesday. So pretty much has from when we're going live now on Tuesday afternoon. So Texas, their enrollment closes. Then I'm guessing Florida and Georgia's has to be closing in the next couple days as well.
Yep. So decision coming any day now. Said either Wednesday or Thursday. So we'll find out soon.
Sergeant Morhew says he's better off heading to a G6 school. Sergeant Morhew, man, we know you're a UNLV fan. You got a biased view of it. But listen, I'm not completely against what you're saying either. A guy like him with that size, if he goes somewhere and puts up some nice numbers, shows some pass rush ability with that size, he's getting drafted the next year because he's able to show it on tape. So I just hope wherever he goes, he's able to actually be a major part of the rotation in the defensive line.
Yeah, no, you want to see him get reps, and NFL wise, it doesn't matter how you get there. If he gets to a place where he has a productive year, he's going to get a chance, just like he's getting a chance now here on the portal.
So Group Chat Football Live, this is our daily show. We appreciate everyone who's been on here with us today, almost 20 live. A lot of the transfer stuff, as we're still talking about it here, but slowing down, as we just referenced with Hirok Kanu, the enrollment period closing. But the coaching carousel still going strong. We were talking at the Penn State situation yesterday where they hired Jim Knowles. Ohio State yet to officially hire a coach. Miami, we were talking about it on our Canes Insight show just before this. Miami, it looks like they've hired one of their defensive backs coaches from Houston, Zach Etheridge. So there's still going to be some coaching movement here, and we'll have you guys covered on Group Chat Football Live every day. We're going to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Sergeant Morhew has a great question here. He says, are you guys going to cover the combine and the draft? Absolutely, 100%. So if you guys are just joining the show or are just now seeing D-Money and myself, Peter Rees, our work, D-Money's followed the draft very closely for years, since he was young and pretty much studied it. I'm an NFL agent myself. I've represented, first round picks, undrafted free agents, been involved in, negotiating second deals, and I've been very involved in the draft process. So we're very well versed in the NFL draft and everything that goes around with it. We talk to NFL people ourselves. So 100% we're going to be doing a lot of content based around the draft. It's Senior Bowl week. It's Shrine Game week. So keep an eye out later this week. D and I are going to do our, digging. We've been following everything that's been happening this week in Mobile and then also in Texas there for the Shrine Game. So we'll come with some really detailed stuff as the week goes on.
Yep, can't wait to watch all these names that we've been following in college make some money and follow their dreams, man. So one of the funnest times of the year.
All right, everyone. Appreciate you joining us today. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and get in the comment section. Let us know what you guys want to see here on Group Chat Football Live. Remember to get in these live shows, ask questions. We love going back and forth with you guys and just interacting, man. Thank you all for being on with us today. See you tomorrow.